My name is Tara Quinn. I'm 28, and I've always tried to do right by my family. I work long shifts as a nurse practitioner, and even when things got tight, I always made sure my mom had what she needed. After my dad passed, I promised I'd take care of her. I never questioned it. Family comes first, right? Stick with me while I share my story, and if it touches you, don't forget to support our channel by hitting that subscribe button, dropping a like, and sharing it with the people you care about. It was close to midnight when my phone buzzed. I was half asleep on the couch when I saw a message from my Uncle Rick. He doesn't usually text late, so I sat up right away. The message was short, just said, "You need to see this." There was a video attached. I hesitated for a moment, thinking it was maybe an old family clip or something sentimental. But the second I pressed play, my whole world cracked. The video was shaky, like it had been recorded secretly. My mom, Janice, was sitting at a kitchen table with a friend, laughing. They were drinking wine, gossiping. I heard her voice clearly, sharp and smug. "Tara's basically my little cash cow," she said, chuckling. "I don't even worry about bills anymore. That girl would hand me her whole paycheck if I asked." I froze. At first, I thought maybe I misheard. But then she kept talking, bragging about how she'd convinced me to pay her mortgage because I was too soft to say no. Her friend laughed, agreeing, saying I was such a sweet girl. My mom grinned and said, "Yes, sweet and stupid." My heart dropped. I replayed the clip 3 times, hoping I was wrong. Each time, her voice cut deeper. I could feel my chest tighten until it hurt to breathe. I'd been sending her money every month for 2 years, mortgage payments, repairs, even groceries. I thought I was helping her keep the house after Dad died. I thought I was doing the right thing. Tears blurred my eyes, but anger started to rise too. Every late-night shift, every skipped vacation, every time I told myself it was okay because Mom needed me, all of it suddenly felt like a lie. She wasn't struggling. She was using me. My phone buzzed again. Uncle Rick wrote, "I'm sorry, Tara." I couldn't listen to her talk like that anymore. I stared at the screen, not sure what to say back. Part of me wanted to scream. Part of me wanted to call her right then. But I just sat there in the dark, phone in hand, shaking. When the video ended, I whispered to no one, my voice breaking. I've been paying her mortgage for 2 years. And in that moment, the truth hit me harder than any betrayal ever had. My own mother didn't see me as her daughter. She saw me as her cash cow. After that night, I couldn't sleep. The video kept replaying in my head, every laugh, every word. I kept wondering how things had gotten this way. It wasn't always like that. When Dad passed, everything in our family changed. I was 22, fresh out of nursing school, still figuring out how to live on my own. Mom was a mess after the funeral, crying 1 minute, silent the next. I moved back home for a while, just to help her keep things together. The bills were piling up back then. Mom didn't have much savings, and the house needed work. I told her I'd take care of it until she got back on her feet. She cried and hugged me, saying, "We're family, Tara. You're all I have now." That sentence stuck with me for years. Every time I worried about money, she'd remind me of it, and I'd tell myself I was doing the right thing. At first, it was small things, covering the power bill, picking up groceries, paying for repairs when something broke. Then she mentioned the mortgage, saying she might lose the house if I didn't help. I didn't even think twice. I started sending payments straight to her account. When my younger brother Eli started college, Mom said she couldn't manage tuition on her own. I stepped in again. It felt good at the time, like I was keeping the family together. Mom would always thank me, but her words started feeling hollow. There was something off in the way she said it, like she expected it. I brushed it off, thinking grief had just changed her. But looking back, there were signs I ignored. Sometimes she'd tell me she needed extra cash for a bill, and when I'd visit, the bill would be sitting unopened on the counter. Once, I noticed a new set of jewelry she said was a gift from a friend. Another time, she mentioned a payment getting lost in the system. I believed her every time. Eli never questioned anything either. He was focused on school, and I didn't want to burden him. I told myself Mom deserved comfort after everything she'd been through. Whenever I felt uneasy, she'd pull out that same line, "You're all I have." It worked every time. After I saw that video, though, every memory shifted. The thank yous, the hugs, the stories about overdue bills, they all sounded different in my head. I started realizing how carefully she'd played me. Every tear, every sweet word had been part of the same act. I sat at my kitchen table with the receipts, the bank statements, and the lies I'd believed for years. The numbers added up to something I could no longer ignore. I wasn't helping her out of love anymore. I had become her wallet, her safety net, her way out of responsibility. And all that time, I thought we were surviving together. Turns out, I was the only one really trying. The next morning, I packed a small bag, grabbed my car keys, and started driving. The road to my mom's place stretched long and quiet, 2 hours of empty thoughts and steady breathing. I told myself I'd stay calm, that I only wanted the truth. But the closer I got, the tighter my chest felt. Every mile carried the weight of that video. When I pulled up to her house, everything looked the same. The porch light still flickering, the same wind chime clinking against the railing. For a second, I almost turned back. Then I saw the curtains shift. She knew I was there. Mom opened the door with a big smile, her voice soft and sugary. "Tara, what a surprise, sweetheart. You didn't even call." She reached for a hug, but I stepped past her into the kitchen. The smell of coffee and cheap perfume hit me. Something about her tone felt off, too cheerful, too practiced. I didn't say a word at first. I pulled my phone from my pocket, tapped the screen, and placed it on the counter between us. The video started playing, the same one Uncle Rick had sent me. The laughter filled the kitchen, her own voice echoing through the room. She froze. Her hand, halfway to her coffee mug, started to tremble. Her face went pale, then hard. Without missing a beat, she snapped. "Who sent you that? Was it Rick? He's always trying to stir things up. That man's never been right." I didn't answer. I just stared at her. She shifted her weight, her eyes darting between me and the phone. "You really believe that nonsense?" she asked, her voice rising. "You're being dramatic, Tara. You've always been so sensitive." Her words hit me like a slap. "You said those things," I said quietly. "I heard you." She laughed sharp, cold. "Oh, please. I was joking. You take everything so seriously. That's your problem." The anger I'd been holding back started to break loose. "A joke?" I asked. "You called me your cash cow." She rolled her eyes, muttering something about people not being able to take humor anymore. When I didn't move, she slammed her mug down. "You think you're better than me now? Because you have money? You don't understand what it's like for me." Something in her tone made my stomach twist. There it was, the guilt she always used, the switch from blame to pity in a single breath. I realized I'd heard this voice my whole life, twisting every truth into something I'd feel sorry for. I backed away from the counter. My hands were shaking, but not from fear anymore. "I'm done, Mom," I said quietly. She scoffed, crossing her arms. "You'll regret this," she said. I walked out without looking back. The air outside felt cold and sharp. My heart was pounding, but my mind had never been clearer. For the first time, I saw everything exactly as it was. A few days passed before I heard from Uncle Rick again. His voice over the phone was calm, steady, the kind that made it hard to stay angry. He asked if I'd join him for dinner at a small diner off the highway. I almost said no, but something in his tone made me agree. When I got there, he was already waiting, a cup of black coffee in front of him, eyes tired but kind. We didn't talk much at first. The waitress brought menus neither of us looked at. Finally, Rick sighed and said, "I owe you an explanation." He leaned forward, folding his hands. "That video I sent, it wasn't new." I frowned. "What do you mean?" He hesitated, then said, "I recorded it a few months ago. I didn't want to get in the middle of things, but I couldn't watch her do it anymore. Every time we talked, she'd go on about how she had you paying for everything. She thought it was funny." The words hit me like another crack in a window already splintered. "So she's been bragging about it?" Rick nodded slowly. "She's been lying to you, Tara. It's not about the house." I felt my stomach twist. "What do you mean it's not about the house?" He rubbed his jaw, looking uncomfortable. "Your mom's got problems, bad ones. She's been gambling for years. Started small, then couldn't stop. When the cards didn't go her way, she found another habit, shopping. Clothes, jewelry, furniture she doesn't need. She hides it all over the place. Those payments you've been sending? Most of them never made it to the mortgage company." For a moment, I just stared at him. The diner noise faded, the clink of dishes, the hum of conversation, until it was just me and his voice echoing in my head. He looked sorry, but he didn't look surprised. "I tried talking to her once," he said. "She said I was jealous of how well you take care of her. That's when I realized she's never going to stop until someone stops her." I felt heat rise behind my eyes. I didn't know if I wanted to cry or scream. "I've been working 60 hours a week for her," I whispered, "and she's been throwing it away." Rick reached across the table, resting his hand over mine. "You're not the fool here, Tara. You're just the only one who still believes she can be better. But some people," he paused, searching for the right words, "they won't change as long as someone keeps saving them." He leaned back, his voice lower now. "Don't yell at her. Don't try to make her see it. Just stop feeding the machine. When the money stops, the truth shows itself." I stared down at the napkin between my fingers, twisting it until it tore. His advice sounded simple, but I knew it would cost me something deep. Still, sitting across from him, I understood. This was the only way to end it. The next morning, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open and my phone face down. My coffee had gone cold, but I didn't care. I'd made up my mind. No more discussions, no more warnings. Just silence. I logged into the bank's website and filled out the form to remove myself from the joint payment plan. My hands trembled a little as I typed my name, but once I hit submit, a strange calm settled over me. I didn't tell her. I didn't know her an announcement. The next automatic transfer came, and went without my name on it. Days passed quietly. Then the call started. At first, she played her usual role, sweet voice, light tone. Hey, honey. Just checking in. Haven't heard from you. I knew what she was really doing, fishing for a reaction. I answered with short messages, nothing personal. I'm busy, Mom. Talk later. A few days later, another call came through. I let it ring. Then came a text. Did the payment go through? The bank must have messed up again. I stared at the message for a long time before replying. You'll need to check with them. I left it at that. The silence stretched. 1 week, then 2. Her messages changed. Is something wrong? Are you upset with me? Still, I didn't bite. I could almost hear her pacing the kitchen, trying to figure out what was happening. By the 3rd week, the sweetness was gone. Her words grew sharper. I can't believe you'd do this to me after everything I've done for you. Then you're abandoning your own mother? What kind of daughter does that? I read every message, my stomach twisting, but I didn't reply. The silence became my armor. When she finally called again, her voice was colder. You think this is funny? You think cutting me off makes you strong? You're cruel, Tara. After all the sacrifices I've made. I let her talk, didn't say a word. When she paused, waiting for me to defend myself, I simply said, I'm busy, and ended the call. Every time my phone lit up, I felt the pull to answer. The guilt tried to sneak back in, whispering that maybe I was being too harsh. But then I'd remember Uncle Rick's words. Stop feeding the machine. So I did. I stopped explaining, stopped apologizing, stopped trying to fix what she kept breaking. The silence grew heavier each day, but it was the only thing keeping me sane. I went to work, came home, cooked dinner for one, and ignored the ringing phone. She could scream, cry, or plead. It didn't matter. I didn't realize it then, but my silence wasn't just cutting off money. It was cutting off control. For the first time, I was learning how quiet strength could be. And even though the quiet hurt, it also started to feel like peace. A month passed before I heard from Eli. His name flashed on my screen late one afternoon while I was finishing paperwork at the clinic. I almost didn't answer, but something in me knew this call was coming. His voice came through sharp, full of frustration. Tara, what's going on with Mom? She says the bank's after her. Did you stop helping? I leaned back in my chair, staring at the wall. She told you that? She's panicking, he said. She said they might take the house. You can't just leave her like this. I took a slow breath. Eli, before you get angry, ask her where all the money went. He went quiet for a few seconds. What do you mean? I said carefully. If she's in trouble again, it's not because of me. He sighed. You've always been dramatic about this stuff. She said you're just trying to punish her. That word, punish, made me close my eyes. I'm not punishing anyone, Eli. I just stopped paying for lies. He didn't answer right away. I could hear the noise of his dorm in the background. Music, laughter, normal life. You think she's lying? He asked finally, his tone softer. I don't think, I said quietly. I know. We hung up not long after. I could tell he didn't believe me yet. But a few days later, the messages started. First, a short text. Mom's been avoiding questions. Then another. She said she lost the receipts. Doesn't add up. By the end of the week, he called again. His voice was different this time. Tired, unsure. Tara, he said. I think you were right. I found credit card bills in her drawer. Thousands of dollars. Stuff she never told us about. I didn't gloat. Didn't say I told you so. I just listened as he talked. He sounded broken, like a kid realizing his world wasn't what he thought it was. She even blamed me, he whispered. Said if I didn't move out, she wouldn't be so stressed. I don't even know what that means. I wanted to comfort him, but there wasn't much to say. The truth had finally started to catch up to her, and there was no stopping it. After we hung up, I sat in silence for a long time. The house felt still, almost too quiet. I thought about Mom, how she'd spin another story, how she'd cry and beg until someone caved. Only this time, there was no one left to save her. It wasn't the kind of revenge anyone could see. There were no shouts, no scenes, no satisfaction you could post or prove. Just quiet truth unfolding piece by piece. For years, I'd been paying to keep her world standing. Now, watching it tilt on its own weight, I felt something close to peace. Not joy, just a slow, steady kind of relief that the truth was finally speaking for itself. It happened faster than I expected. A notice from the bank arrived at Mom's door, and within weeks, the house was no longer hurt. Eli told me about it over the phone, his voice low, like he still couldn't believe it. They gave her 30 days to move out, he said. She's packing what she can. I didn't ask where she planned to go. I already knew she'd find a way to land somewhere soft. And she did, a small, rundown rental across town. She called me the day she moved in. I almost didn't pick up, but curiosity got the better of me. Her voice was shaky, though I couldn't tell if it was sadness or anger. You've done enough damage, Tara, she said. Your father would be ashamed of you for letting me go through this alone. For a moment, I said nothing. I let the silence hang there, let her words lose their sting before I answered. No, Mom. I said finally, my voice steady. Dad would be ashamed of what you became. There was a long pause, and then the line went dead. I didn't call back. A week later, Eli showed up at my door with a single duffel bag. He didn't say much, just stood there until I opened my arms. I made him dinner, and for the first time in years, the house felt peaceful. He looked older somehow, like the weight of everything had settled on him too. She's angry, he said quietly over dinner, but I think she knows it's over. She can't blame you anymore. I nodded. She'll try, I said, but it won't work this time. A few days later, Uncle Rick stopped by. He brought groceries, claiming it was just an excuse to check on us. He sat at the kitchen table, his familiar half-smile softening the room. You did the right thing, kid, he said. It hurts now, but this is what freedom looks like sometime. I don't feel free, I admitted. I just feel empty. He leaned back, thoughtful. That's what happens when you stop carrying what was never yours to hold, he said. Family's important, but it isn't supposed to break you. You can love someone without letting them control your life. His words settled deep. I looked over at Eli, sitting quietly by the window, and realized Rick was right. The three of us sat there for a while without saying much, just listening to the rain outside. Mom's world had finally collapsed, not because I wanted revenge, but because I stopped holding it up. The house she'd bragged about keeping, the comfort she'd built on my work, it was gone. What replaced it wasn't loud or cruel. It was quiet, honest, and unshakable. That night, I slept for the first time without guilt, knowing the collapse wasn't my failure. It was her truth catching up, brick by brick. The weeks after the foreclosure were quiet, almost too quiet. For the first time in years, I didn't wake up to messages demanding money or guilt-soaked phone calls. But the silence left room for something else, the weight of everything I'd been carrying. It was heavier than I expected. I found myself replaying old moments, wondering if I could have stopped any of it earlier, wondering if taking care of her had been my way of keeping Dad alive. That's when I decided to get help. The first therapy session felt strange. I sat there, arms crossed, unsure what to say. The therapist's office smelled like coffee and paper, calm in a way that made me restless. When she asked why I was there, the words spilled out faster than I meant them to. By the end, I was crying without realizing it. She didn't judge, didn't interrupt. She just said, you can love someone and still let them face their own consequences. Each week, I learned something new about myself, mostly how tangled guilt can be when it's mistaken for love. Slowly, I started letting go of the need to fix everything. I began saving money for me, not someone else. I took walks after work, cooked dinners I actually enjoyed, bought new sheets for the first time in years. Small things, but they made my apartment feel like mine. Eli stayed with me while finishing his last semester. One night over takeout, he looked up from his food and said, I'm sorry I didn't believe you sooner. He didn't look at me when he said it, just kept his eyes on the table. I reached over and squeezed his hand. You see it now, I said. That's what matters. From then on, things between us felt lighter. We talked about Dad, about growing up, about how easy it was to get lost in someone else's mess when you just want to keep peace. Uncle Rick became part of our routine too. He'd stop by on weekends, bring groceries or fix something in the apartment, always pretending it was no big deal. One evening, he helped Eli change the oil in his car, laughing the whole time. Watching them together made something ache in my chest. It wasn't sadness exactly, more like a soft recognition. This is what family's supposed to look like. I still thought about Mom sometimes, but not with the same ache. It felt more like grief for what could have been. She was still my mother, but that bond wasn't built on truth anymore. Letting go of her didn't erase the love. It just untied it from pain. By the time spring rolled around, I felt something I hadn't in years, stillness. Not the kind that comes from exhaustion, but the kind that comes from peace. It wasn't happiness exactly, but something close. Freedom, maybe. The quiet didn't scare me anymore. It felt earned. It had been months since I'd heard her voice. The distance had started to feel normal, almost like breathing cleaner air after years of smoke. Then, one evening, a knock broke the quiet. It was slow at first, then faster, more frantic. When I opened the door, she was standing there, thinner, pale, her hair uncombed, eyes darting around like she didn't know where to look. For a second, I didn't recognize her. The confident, sharp woman I'd grown up with was gone. What stood in front of me looked smaller, like the world had finally caught up to her. She gave me a weak smile that didn't reach her eyes. Tara, she whispered, I just need a few minutes. I didn't answer, just stepped back enough to let her stand in the doorway. She clutched her purse with trembling hands. I wouldn't be here if I had another choice, she said quickly. Things got worse. The rent's late, I'm behind on bills. I just need one more loan, just to get back on track. Her voice cracked halfway through, but the words sounded too familiar. One more loan. How many times had I heard that exact phrase? I looked at her closely. She was still wearing the same perfume, though it had faded under the smell of cheap cigarettes. Her eyes darted to my apartment behind me, to the warmth, the stability. She wanted in, but not for the right reasons. "Mom," I said softly, "I can't." Her expression changed instantly. The pleading turned to disbelief. "You can't? Or you won't? After everything I've been through?" Her tone sharpened, that old bite coming back. "You think you're better than me now?" I kept my voice steady. "It's not about being better. It's about being done." She blinked, her face hardening. "You're just like your uncle," she spat. "You both enjoy watching me fall apart." The words stung, but not like they used to. I could hear the manipulation beneath them, the same pattern I'd fallen for again and again. My chest tightened as I looked at her, the woman who raised me, who taught me how to care, but never how to stop. "I hope you figure things out," I said quietly. Then I stepped forward, my hand resting on the door. She realized what was coming and took a small step closer, her voice breaking. "Tara, please. I'll change this time. I promise." I paused, looking into her eyes. For a second, I wanted to believe her. The ache in my chest told me to. But promises from her were just another way of keeping me tied to pain. "I know you will," I whispered, though we both knew it wasn't true. Then I closed the door, slowly, carefully, until the latch clicked. On the other side, I could hear her footsteps fading down the hallway. My hands shook, but I didn't cry. I just stood there, realizing that sometimes forgiveness isn't about opening the door again. It's about keeping it closed. A full year passed before I heard from her again. Life had settled into something simple. Steady shifts at the clinic, quiet evenings with Eli stopping by now and then, dinners with Uncle Rick on Sundays. The chaos had faded into memory, though sometimes it still brushed against me in dream. Then one morning, a thin white envelope appeared in my mailbox. No return address, just my name written in her handwriting. The same looping letters I'd seen on birthday cards and grocery lists my whole life. I stood in my kitchen staring at it for a long time before opening. Inside was a single sheet of paper. No greeting, no apology. Just her voice on the page, written like she was still trying to win an argument. She wrote about how hard life had been for her, how nobody understood the pressure she was under. She said she never meant to hurt me, that she only did what she had to do to survive. Every line twisted the story back into her version, one where she was the victim, and I was the ungrateful child. At the bottom, she'd signed it with, "Maybe one day you'll understand." I read it twice, hoping for even one sentence that sounded like remorse. But there was nothing there. No acknowledgement, no ownership, just excuses. My chest felt heavy, but there were no tears left. I folded the letter, walked to the back porch, and set it in a small metal bowl. The flame caught quickly, the paper curling in on itself as the words disappeared into smoke. I watched until the last edge turned black and drifted away. The smell of burnt ink lingered in the air, faint and final. As the ashes cooled, a thought settled in my mind. Not angry, not bitter, just clear. Sometimes betrayal doesn't destroy you. It strips away what you were never meant to carry. It shows you who you are without the chains that kept you small. Months later, I stood outside a small house with a sold sign in the yard. It wasn't big, but it was mine. The air smelled like fresh paint and new beginnings. I ran my hand over the front door and smiled. There were no strings attached to this place, no hidden debts, no guilt stitched into the walls. Every dollar that built it came from my own work, not from obligation. Eli helped me move in, and Uncle Rick brought over a plant for the windowsill. As the sun set, the rooms glowed soft and golden. I thought about all the years I'd spent paying for someone else's comfort, and how this moment felt like reclaiming every piece of myself I'd given away. Standing there in my own doorway, I whispered the words that had been waiting all along. "This time," I said, "I pay for peace, not someone else's lies." Hey besties, thanks for staying till the end of this wild story. Imagine sacrificing everything for the person who raised you, only to find out you were nothing more than their paycheck. It hurts, but sometimes walking away is the only way to heal. If this story hit you hard, don't forget to like, share, drop a comment, and subscribe for more real-life tales. See you in the next one. Bye!